Morning, folks. Welcome to the channel. I hope everyone is keeping well. It's been one hell of a week, let me tell you. So probably this day last week I started to get a sore throat or whatever, and given what happened to me, I get terribly anxious. You know, if I have any kind of illness or whatever, I get worried that I'm going to end up back where I was. But and I had clients the weekend for guiding. Absolute gentlemen, by the way. I was fishing with Stephen Drum and Graziano and Mick the Trout, as he's affectionately known. I think he took a 53 centimetre sea trout and a white Z claw. Sure, what else could you call him when he Mick the Trout like? But absolute gentleman and just a pleasure to fish with, like, you know. And then I was fishing with a couple other lads before that, Mark and Keith, and again just brilliant crack, like, you know, just laughing all day. But every day is a school day when you're bass fishing, you know. Like on the first day's fishing, I was absolutely sure. I was like, we are going to hit fish here. Everything seemed right. There was two local anglers that I know, or well, one that I know and one that I met for the first time, a lovely fella. But one of them I know 30 years and is, you know, an accomplished angler in his own right, Demo. So I thought, right, we're in here. And just as the tide turned, big fish started to swirl at the back of the lure, but that's all. That's it. They wouldn't hit it. They wouldn't have it. You know. And Keith is kind of new to surface lure fishing, but I mean, his technique was fine. There was nothing wrong. It's just the fish were stuffed, right? So what I learned is that like. It seems like the building tides are fishing better than the actual moon and the bigger tides or whatever, because there's so much bait around. I mean, literally, you could have walked on the bait in the estuary. It was phenomenal. I mean, we saw incredible sea trout just cruising the margins and absolutely no interest in taking a lure. Now, we caught a few fish. We got a few schoolies and stuff, but we just couldn't get the bigger fish to. They just wouldn't have it. And so my take on that is, and I don't know if I'm right or whatever. I mean, there's no way to know, right? But I think it's just pure aggression that brings them up, right? That they come up to give it a smack or whatever. But they're not actually willing to take it or whatever. So it was really interesting to see that in action. And then, you know, I put out a YouTube, you know, about getting follows, and I got loads of messages in on WhatsApp saying I have the exact same. Like, it was happening in Cork, it was happening in West Waterford, it was happening here in Waterford itself, it was happening over in Wexford. So I was like, okay, so clearly what's happened here is, like, there's so much bait has come ashore on the last tide. The bass just got stuffed, and like all cold-blooded creatures, you know, when they get full, right, they need to go and digest, right? They need to digest what's in their stomach before they can feed again, you know. But they're predators, so they're aggressive. Probably your best shot, I think, when it's like that, it's a hard lure, right? And I know hard lures have kind of gone out of fashion. You don't hear anybody talking about them very much, but I will not be on the shore, right, without two sizes. Something in a 90. Now that's a little Daiwa shoreline shiner, a little sinker, right, that I got for €5 on a Japanese website there about 4 or 5 years ago. And I mean, it has just hammered fish for me, right? And the other size that I'll have is that, right? And that's the Komomo SF125, right? I just think that when the bass are not actually taking lures, what you're looking to do is trigger a reaction strike. Just to trigger that aggressive tendency they have. So what I'll do is if I think there's a group of bass or whatever, I'll cast and I'll literally rip the lure through them, and then the next cast I'll fish it a bit more slowly or whatever. But it was just a really interesting weekend, and one of the things that definitely just hammered home for me was always keep moving. Like, don't stay static and wait for the fish to come for you, right? Unless like if you're fishing a mark that you know incredibly well and you know fish are going to show up at whatever time, fine. But if you're fishing, new ground, or you're fishing an estuary or whatever, um, keep moving, because 10 foot away from you there could be a bass sitting under a bit of structure or whatever. Like we ended up on, I can't remember whether it was Saturday or Sunday. I was so sick, like um, I had to cancel on Monday because I just couldn't. I mean, literally on Sunday I had to change 3 times. I just take off my hoodie and my t-shirt, and thankfully I carry spares, like, because I was literally just drowned in sweat. But thankfully it's not COVID, and it's the first time I've gotten sick and it hasn't knocked the wind out of my sails, if you know what I mean. Like, grand, I've been in bed for 2 or 3 days and feeling fairly poorly, but I don't have any of the stuff that I would have had before, where I get the terrible fatigue and all that stuff. So it is possible to make a recovery from long COVID, which is phenomenal, like, for me. And the business is going along grand. I mean, I'm not making a fortune or anything, but I'm building a sustainable business, right? And I'm enjoying it. That's the most important thing about fishing, right? For me, it's not like, it's not a numbers game or whatever. It's like, are you actually enjoying what you're doing? But we were fishing. It was Sunday night, and we were in an estuary, and I was like, it was a huge tide, and I was like, come on, waiting. We were there on the top of the water, and I was waiting for flow. I always like to have current because it'll carry a few fish, and we were right in the back, and the flow just didn't come. It just it just almost stayed totally static. But I kept moving, right? I kept moving, and I kept the lads moving with me. And sure enough, then one of them banged out a nice, lovely fish, about 58 or 59. Now, you might say, oh, that's not a special bass, but it is, because it was such a hard day, like we'd southeasterly wind, right? My least favourite wind is a southeasterly wind. I hate wind from the southeast. It muckies the water, it carries a heap of weed, it just, for me, it kills the fishing. Now, you might be in a place where, you're waiting for southeasterly winds, right? So that again is back to the watercraft. It's about knowing your own ground, knowing under what conditions it fishes, etc., etc. But today I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One is structure, right? Bass absolutely love structure. They just love it. And by structure, like, you can mean lots of different things. Like, it might be a set of oyster trestles, right? But it might also just be a patch of stones on a beach, right? That seems totally featureless, right? Or if you go to a beach that has like an estuary at the back of it, and you get that wavy sand, right? That's structure, right? It's somewhere where the bass can sit and stay down out of the current and hunt, right? Without expending lots of energy, right? And it also gives them cover, right? So I've noticed, like, you learn a lot about bass behavior fishing from the boat, right? Because you can see what they're doing way more so than you can fishing from the shore, right? And like, we've been drifting the Copper Coast at times, and I've been like, Jesus Christ, you could be fishing the shore and you're literally 10 feet away from 20 or 30 bass sat, just in a small group, all tight to one another, just waving in the current or whatever, and you wouldn't hit them at all, right? So that's why I say, like, keep moving, just keep moving, keep covering ground, over and back, over and back, over and back, and keep trying different lures. That's the other thing. Like, I have no idea why some days bass want it on the top, right? I have no idea why other days they want tiny little lures, and other days they want great big lures. I mean, I don't know. Is it directly related to what they're feeding? Yeah, sure, I'm sure it plays a role in it, right? But this year, definitely, I would say I've got really switched on to small baits. I think small baits are underutilized. Like, like if you look at, so that's the major craft, right? Paddle tail. Now that one is Laterino. It's a nice color actually. It's kind of a clear with a purple line in it or whatever. But it's 22 gram head. I think it's 100 mil body or whatever. It's fairly big for a sand eel, right? But if you look at its little brother, that's only 90 mil, right? Now, I've been doing extremely well on, well, not extremely well, I don't want to make myself out to be some sort of fucking guru, excuse my language, but I've been doing really well when things are tight, right? If you can't get a take, downsize. That's just what I do, I just downsize. Either that, or I upsize and I go for something that's really going to make a fuss, like a Zonk Gatorade or whatever. Something that's really going to trigger that kind of reaction strike or whatever. But it was an interesting few days fishing, right? It just goes to show you, 30 years in this game and still loads to learn. Like, to watch those, like, I mean, they were good fish and they were just coming up at the back of the lure, swirling, and they were gone. And funny enough, it was one lure in particular, the white frosty, right, which is not a particularly popular lure in Ireland. It just never really took off. People never really took to it. Everybody fished pachinko or whatever, and the frosty kind of got lost in the pachinko madness or whatever. But the frosty is actually a lovely bait. Like, it's a slide bait, right? So when you tip it, it slides off to the side and it slides back again. Now, it's really a calm water bait, right? But I'll show you more when I get them in. I have a bunch coming in this week. The other lure that I'm just incredibly impressed with is the Don Baloney 140. Oh my God, what a lure. Like, now, I would prefer it rigged with singles, to be honest with you, on assists, right? But I haven't had the time, just because things are so busy in the business, right? And I'm trying to shoot lures, fill orders, do all these things or whatever. But that's the sinking version. But I mean, as soon as you start to retrieve it, right, it comes up on the surface. So on a straight retrieve, it'll just fish like a needle and give you just that V in the top of the water. But if you pop it a little bit, it'll start to gurgle, right, and skip from side to side and work almost like a top water lure. So it's just incredibly versatile, and I've been getting some nice fish on it, right? The other lure that's been doing really well for me is the new Z Claw. I mean, I just love it. I won't go out without Z Claw in light whacker. I don't have the Ghost Lacan, but I always have a Ghost Lacan, which is kind of the greenbacked one with the silvery kind of sides or whatever. I mean, just fantastic. Just been fishing so well. As has the Espetit 110. I mean, I just love this lure. It's got such a wide step, right? Like, I've covered marks with all sorts of lures. And then next thing I'll stick up the S Petite 110, boom, boom, and a bass just comes up and bang. So it's like it looked at all the other lures and didn't take them, but once I put the S Petite in, bang. Now that's not every day, obviously, but it is undoubtedly a really useful surface lure. So, yeah, I'm kind of rambling now, but sure, look, you're used to me rambling. I've been rambling for the last 18 months, nothing new in that. You know, another lure I will not be without, right, is the 4-inch 1-up shad in baby bass. You know, I know Keelan Walsh had an 82 or 83 centimeter bass on one of those, right? Like it's not a case of big lure, big fish. Definitely not. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, huge fish get taken on really small little lures. So it's best to have, excuse me, it's best to have a good selection, right? So the power slide is going back into production this week, but I just want to show you some of the new colors, right? So that's the new shiny white. I got some new plastisol and liquid colors in, and I just really impressed with the results. Like, you know, that's very, like, it's similar to the effect of an Albi snack or whatever, and it's been fishing extremely well. Like, it's been hammering fish on the coast here for me. And the other color I really like is the gold one, right? But I'm gonna start mixing it up now, because I'm starting to get kind of handy at shooting them. It's not an easy thing to do, right? And I have some more molds on the way, so production will go up or whatever, and I'll be able to fill out all those orders this week. So that's pretty much it, guys. Not much more to report. Like, you know, I'm not going to fish today anyway. I think I'd be foolish to. You know, I think I just need to rest and get myself properly well. But hopefully now we get some settled weather, we'll get back on the fish, because you know, it's that time of year, right, when the sand eel will come in shore, and they'll spawn fairly soon, and when that happens, there is no doubt that these bad boys are king, right? I mean, you just cannot top, for me anyway, you cannot top the X there. Now, funny enough, I was talking to my old friend Mike Carlton just by text yesterday, because I was sick in the bed. He has been doing really well on this little guy, the Mad Eel 90, right? And you can see why, right? Like it is just the right size and profile, right? And actually, if you look at the paddle tail, it's quite small, so it has a really subtle action. But if you've ever been on a beach at night time, you know, that holds a good few sand eel, and you watch what the sand eel are doing, they're not doing a whole lot. Like, they're not darting all over the place or whatever. They're quite, you know, they just move around in groups or whatever, and do their best to avoid the sea bass, right? So that's why I think you know, the smaller baits are incredibly successful. I mean, the innovation that's happened in lure fishing is incredible. Like the dark sleeper, you know, I can't get over how successful a lure it is. Like, I mean, it's incredible. It'll get you a fish when nothing else is working, right? You know, and matched up with a bit of Halco scent, right? So this week I have 2 big orders coming in. Going to have scent back in stock. Going to have lots of surface lures, because it's that time of year, right? When you know, you've the opportunity now to get out there and smash fish on the surface, and then in the night time, you know, you can get these bad boys out, right? I'm going to do, I'll take the camera out with me, and I'm going to show you how I fish them, right? Because it's not simply a case of just cast and retrieve or whatever. They need to be worked, right? Now you can fish them, and we have done very well fishing them on jig heads, right, from the boat, right? Just banging them along, letting them tip along in the current, right, and then dunk, right? And you'll see Bradley Ridsdale, he does very well from the kayak, you know, and he's fishing them on a jig head a lot of the time. Now sometimes he's fishing them weightless, right? But that's my preferred way to fish them, right? So on a BKK with just about a gram of weight in the nose, right? And I will fish them kind of like twitch paws, right? It's sharp but gentle, if that makes sense. It's like to get it to kind of just dunk, and then let it fall, and then dunk, you know, just to get it to zigzag around and give the bass time to have a look at it. And a lot of the takes really quite aggressive, like bang. What it is about that green colour, I have no idea, because it looks like nothing that swims in the sea, right? But they absolutely love it. They just, I mean, they just smash it. Like, it's incredible. I think since I've released it, I've been selling a few. I've been throwing a few out to people for the last few months, but since I've actually gone at properly making it and packaging it and all the rest of it, I know of 4 fish, 70 and over. I mean, Keelan Walsh had an absolute munter of a fish on one. The reel is there on my Instagram. So, unfortunately, my dad is a little bit poorly today, so I'm gonna have to go. So that's it. You know, keep fishing, keep moving, keep looking for structure. You know, keep trying different lures. You know, keep mixing it up, right? Because you never know when you're going to hit a fish, right? Like last weekend, I was fishing with the boys, and the next day then they were fishing themselves, and Mick sent me a picture of, like, you know, he had gone back to the mark we fished the night before, and he was like convinced that there were good fish there, and I know from fishing it for years, like, that there really are good fish there. And he got an absolute beauty. He got 60, either 62 or 63, but it was proper fish. And he got it off the top, and again he got it fishing over structure, right? Because in the daylight he was able to see where the structure was and fish around it and all that. So so that's it for today, guys. I'm going to leave it there. With lots of new tackle coming this week, lots of new stuff going up online. There are going to be some special offers in there, especially on the Astory 130s and stuff. So keep your eyes open for that. And there'll be lots of power slides. I'm going to shoot power slides now all day and just take care of my dad, because he's in bed sick, unfortunately, but he's okay. We did a COVID test this morning and it was clear, so he just needs to get a bit of rest and he'll be back in his feet. He's a legend, like, you know. I wouldn't be here only for him, that's for sure. So it's nice to be able to return the favour. But tight lines, everyone, and thanks again for all your support and for tuning into the channel. And I hope you got something out of the coffee fueled gibberish. But anyway, tight lines, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.